professional developer, because now that we're kind of working in a bit more modular fashion, these things are, well, we need to hop around kind of implementing a single path as opposed to kind of viewing our programs as a whole. The outline is an absolutely wonderful feature. It not only allows you to just zoom to paragraphs at your will, but you can also expand your working storage section and take a look at all the variables that you need, or sorry, that are declared in your program, so you don't have to jump around, or you can minimize jumping around. And when you do need to jump around, you can go exactly to the place that you want to. Okay. Just some tricks and tips to help you work a little bit more efficiently and effectively with this stuff. Ooh. It would help if I clicked on the right heading. Okay. And here I have 300 count not found. First thing, change it so that it's duplicate and matches the paragraph that I declared to be the handler. And here we will say account already exists. And I'll say please enter another account or act. Okay. Hopefully that's, tell me how many. Oh, that's just a little bit too big for my message field. My message field is only 60 characters wide, so it's going to chop off some of the data there. Account taken? Yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah, taken. Or, wow, let's see. Yeah. I want to use this for some reason. Okay. That's 58. We're good to go. So that handles the pushing the message in for me and then out the door. Okay, and try not to pay too much attention to what's going on there, because that's really not how I want you to handle yours, but that's how my program. Okay, the important part is that we have a message being put or being shown to our user, telling them that the account exists and that they need to change the account number. All right. This isn't really a validation error because, well, there's no way that we could really validate the account number with a static set of rules that would tell us whether or not they're going to be able to write it. Okay. Instead, this is a runtime exception. But we handle these things in roughly the same way. Tell them what the error was and provide them with some indication of how they can fix the error. Okay. On that, go ahead, compile this thing, pray for kicks or the gods of COBOL that this thing works. Any Battlestar Galactica fans out there? The promised land of COBOL. Yeah. I laugh every time that I think about the issues and the fun stuff that we run into. Only. Sorry, no, I did see it compile properly, so I need to make sure that it has a new copy. PGC. Oh, load fail. Did I? PGC. For PGC. Oh, classic. Didn't modify my JCL. Power of a single character. And oh, no, I still I get confused sometimes too. Who am I kidding? I'm confusing sometimes. There we go. There. All right. So now we can finally start this thing up with a transaction code of G94, and for our create for our entry program, it is the transaction 2. Okay. So we can see first off from our title that we have indeed entered the right program. We haven't done some weird cross-compilation thing where we've compiled one program into the slot of the other. Right, so that's comforting. We can go ahead and type in some stuffs. The only validation that I have is length validation, so I'm going to make sure that the account number fails. We didn't do the surname. Okay. There we go. Account number must be five numbers long. Okay, and if we try to go ahead and write into the slot for account number 0001, we should see that our program does not fail, but instead tells us that that already exists. And what do you know? Account already exists. Please enter another account number, and lo and behold, once we put in an account number which definitely does exist, the record is successfully written. Okay, and notice that I probably should have drawn your attention to it while we're going through the process. But you'll notice that even though I had errors coming up, the data was still on the map. Okay, and that is absolutely what we want to occur, because if your program forces your user to enter a fresh set of data every single time, then effectively you're creating a situation where they have exactly the same probability every single time of screwing something up. Okay, and if you make them enter fresh data every time, they're probably going to screw something up every single time. So only make them change and re-enter the piece of data that they need to change. Everything else should stay as is. Or yeah, leave it at that. Question? Okay. So, just to go back through the major changes that we made, not going back to the map, but just in our program. Okay. Major changes occurred in main logic. Okay. Starting at the top of our main logic, all the implementation or validation that stayed the same. You will need a bunch more validation here because we've opened up all the other fields for to be validated or to be input, and therefore they need to be validated. Once you've done that, you move from the input fields into the account rec fields and perform the write. And the write really only differs from the read in terms of syntax by the write verb. It was previously read, and for write, we use from to specify where the data is coming from, as opposed to with read, where we specify something that we read the data into. Right? And the other big change was that instead of handling the not found condition up at the top, zoom up there. Actually, you know what? We should use the outline because it's easier. Okay, in my start logic, we now have a handle condition for duprec, which is D-U-P-R-E-C, and we changed the that condition handler so that it tells our user that the record already exists and they need to provide a new account number. Okay. So any questions on the Kix and COBOL stuff? I do plan to take snippets from this code and provide it on DC Connect. There's no point in me providing you with the starter file because, well, it's in your best interest to use your own program. Okay. So yeah, I'll give you snippets of just this new handle condition so that you just in case you forget that it's this wonderful, also descriptive duprec. And then I'll also put a snippet of the right block with the moves. Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns? It is pretty light in terms of the changes. The real devilish lab, I've held off until, well, it wasn't even supposed to be this semester, but the big nasty one, the update program, that comes next year. So we don't have to worry about anything going on or crazy going on with the system until then. Okay, but that being said, we are now getting into the territory where everybody will be now writing their own records into the exact same account file, right? So you can, I'm not going to make it a requirement right now, but if you want to avoid colliding with other people's records that you don't really know are there or not, I will show you how you can do that. All right. Now this is a little bit dangerous because we could get into a situation where our read and create programs aren't looking at exactly the same records. Okay, so if you're going to make this change, then you will also need to recompile your read program at some point in time after I finish marking. Okay, such that your read and create program are using the same version of account rec. And the thing that you need to change in here is the prefix or the account code, right? Right now, your programs are all looking for accounts with a prefix of XXX. Those are the 10 records or 9 records that I've created in there for you, okay? If you are using this prefix in your create programs, that means that you have a chance of colliding with everybody else's records. If you change it, then you will be safe because nobody else should be using the account code that you'll define for yourself. And to keep ourselves safe, we'll just use the last 3 characters of our user ID, which are unique to everybody. Make sense? So if you do want to change it, last 3 characters of your user ID go in here, and you will need to recompile your read program. Well, you can do it today if you're finished, but if not, then I would suggest leaving it for further down the road. Okay. Okay.
We could just change it for testing purposes and then change it back to the account,
The thing that really matters is your create and read program should be using the same prefix.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah. As long as they're using the same one, then it should be fine. Okay. So the other thing that I did want to do just before I stop talking for the day. Oh, we only got 10 minutes left, but this is a really handy one. I should have exit. Oh, there we go. Good. So this is a really handy one, just in case our read programs aren't quite up to par, or we think something weird is happening. Okay. So instead of relying just on the programs that we have implemented in order to interact with the file, we can with the account file, we can also use the CECI transaction in order to read or even write things from the file if we want. Okay, or sorry, read things from the file or write things to the file. But for now, I'm just going to show you the read because this is a quick and dirty way to check if the data that you actually meant to write ended up in the file. Okay, so here we start with CECI, and this time instead of doing the send map, we just do read file. Okay, and we can effectively execute any of the kicks commands that we would use in our program in this way. Here I'm just showing you how to read a file, and then just like in our kicks and COBOL program, we are reading the account file. Okay, and we need to specify a RID folder so that it can look up a data value. And here I'm going to check on that record that I just wrote. Okay. Once I've put that all in and double checked it, I can press enter. The first time I press enter, it basically checks over the operands that I provided. We can see that it's about to execute. It didn't find anything exceptionally wrong with the command up to this point, so it's going to let me actually run it through the system. And then when I hit enter again, there we go. Okay, so I can see that in my record, I have a bunch of wonderful stuff. And, oh, well, isn't that nice? I have a bunch of junk that's ended up in there, okay? And that's not great, because I can tell you right now, I only put in basically this data, okay? It wasn't great test data. If you were to just look at the data, you'd be like, well, how the hell is he telling those things apart? Well, I know that I only put in this data because I couldn't have put in any other data. And I definitely didn't type in tester or testington like I have in some of the other records. So the question becomes, well, what the hell happened here? Anybody want to take a flying guess at why I have all this junk in there?
Maybe it's left over.
Left over from where? That's the question.
Random in memory.
Random in memory. You are correct, but this data got picked up at a certain point in time, and we need to know when it was picked up so that we can effectively obliterate it. Okay. Anybody have any ideas on where we may have forgotten to clear out some memory that we are responsible for what we have? Yes, we're getting along. So when we execute the read program and we read something, where does the data end up?
In the buffer.
In the buffer, which is the account rec, right? So effectively, what we have here is our program starting up, taking a bunch of memory, assigning it to the account rec, which just happens to be kind of aligned with something that happened with a previous run of some other program, or maybe this one, okay? And it just left that junk in there. So I would the one takeaway from this little thing is that before we move anything into the account record, that needs to be cleared out. Okay, so for our, and that's kind of like a little hidden gotcha. Good on you for coming to class. Make sure that you clear out the account record before you start moving any of the input into it. Okay, otherwise you could very well end up with a situation like this. I'm going to post some of the code. I really want to do a video, but I also have a massive pile of marking that really needs to get done.
This is due after the break, right?
Yeah, this is yeah. So so that's the other big thing that everybody wants to know about. Oh, right. Sorry, we do have a video that's going to be uploaded to the Slack channel. I always forget about that. Pardon?
I have a Slack for the course,
Oh, sure.
and I've been putting up videos for this class.
Yeah. So they'll be in there. So that will be available and makes me feel not so bad about things. Yeah. So we'll rely on that one. I should do the marking first before I get the videos. Okay. But I will upload the code snippets so that you have those. But yeah, just remember, it's really just the opposite of, or an opposite sequence for the from the read program. Instead of, yeah. And we went through that in demonstration today.
Send it to you on Slack.
Okay, so any questions, comments, or concerns in the last moment or two before I leave you to your own devices? And this will be the only demo this week. If you want me to re-demo something on Wednesday, by all means, come with your questions prepared. I'll be more than happy to go through any of the code, but I don't have anything extra planned for Wednesday. It'll just be lab time and helping people out with any of the issues that they have. Lab is due January 5th at 11 p.m. Okay, this will be the second to last thing that we do in the class. We'll do one more small lab when we come back, and all we're doing there is learning how to make the menu work so that we can actually transfer from the menu into all of our other programs. and that'll give us a small example of how we make or how we can allow our programs to intercommunicate or communicate with each other. Okay, so just some tiny, small finishing touches when we come back from the break, and then we'll go into peer testing.
The peer testing is the only testing, right?
So there's no exam in this course. Basically, the last 2 weeks are dedicated to finishing up the labs, assigning peers for the peer testing so that we can test each other's systems, point out the bugs, and then the final testing is just me getting onto the system and making sure that you've fixed all your bugs and everything works.